Hello there and welcome to Black Jackal Gaming. Today we're going to take a look at the Primaris Inceptor squad. We're going to take a look at this good deep striking range unit. It's pretty tough and quite fast. It can hit relatively hard if you take enough models. It's got a nice little ability which gives you the option of potentially stealing objectives, but they are a bit pricey in points and they're quite expensive to buy. They are quite a fast unit because they do have movement 10, and being Gravis Marines at toughness 6, that gives them a lot of toughness on the move. They come with 3 wounds, a save of 3+, ballistic skill of 3+, the leadership 6, but the OC is only 1, which is slightly disappointing. They've got 2 variants, the first up being the Assault Bolters. They have the Assault Twin Linked Pistol and Sustained keyword, that sustained hits 2. They come with 3 attacks per model at strength 5, -1 AP and 2 damage. The Plasma variant has Assault, Twin Linked Pistol and Hazardous. So you've got the 2 options with this. Both of them come in with 2 attacks, and then you can either have the Standard or the Supercharge. It comes in at strength 7 or 8, AP 2 or 3 and damage 2 or 3. So quite a nice option if you do have some toughness 8 stuff that you really want to try and lower the wound roll required on them and push through a little bit more damage. They've got a standard close combat weapon for Space Marines, which is attacks 3, weapon skill 3, strength 4 and just 1 damage. There's some quite nice keywords with each variant. Both of them come with pistols, so you can shoot into combat if you've been charged or you have charged. They're both twin links, so you get to re-roll that wound roll. And you have the sustained hits 2 on the bolters, so any critical hits of a 6 will give you 2 additional hits. And then you've got the hazardous keyword on plasma, so if you decide to supercharge on roll of 1 per model, that's the hazardous test where you roll 1d6 per model that's got a hazardous weapon. If you roll a 1, unfortunately that model will die. So the squad does have the deep strike keyword, so it can deep strike in anywhere on the board outside of 9 inches onto an enemy unit. But it does have another ability which adds to the deep strike ability called Meteoric Descent. What this allows it to do is land outside of 3 inches of an enemy model, but it is not eligible to declare a charge in that turn. So you can potentially drop in onto an objective outside of 3 inches, do as much damage to the opponent as possible, potentially pushing them off the objective, but as long as you get above their OC level, you can steal the objective for them, so it is quite nice in those instances. It's also if you do need to score some vital points at the end for behind enemy lines or engage in all fronts, you do have the ability just to drop these in to score points in tightly confined areas. They do come in a squad of 3 or 6. They are on the pricey side. They're at 110 points for a 3-man and 220 points for a 6-man. Because you're not really getting many shots within the unit, you probably are going to lean towards the 6-man just so they can drop in and actually do the job that you want them to do. Because if you've got the Plasma Exterminators coming in at just 6 shots, and if you are overcharging at strength 8 -3/3 damage, they might actually have difficulty killing the target you want them to drop in. So if you've got a little bit of redundancy with those 6-man, they're definitely going to be able to take out some tougher units for you. So what buffs can you give Inceptors? Well, unfortunately there's no leaders that can currently join them, so you can't receive any of the buffs they can give out, such as sustained hits or lethal hits or additional attacks or strength. Any of those are off the table because no leaders can join them. So you've got the standard stratagem across all detachments, which is quite useful. Armor of Contempt, which reduces incoming AP by 1. A lot of the detachments and stratagems, they don't really work with Inceptors too much, especially if you've got the 3-man unit, because they are dropping in generally behind enemy lines to try and do a bit of damage or score some points. They tend to die quite quickly. All the stratagems are more geared towards them potentially shooting back or that, but to spend 1 CP on potentially 1 or 2 plasma shots coming back at them isn't really that beneficial. So a lot of the detachment rolls, they don't quite work too well with Inceptors. The one that works with basically all the units in the game, Gladius Task Force, this has the Storm of Fire stratagem. So this really combines with the Devastator Doctrine for these guys. So if you can drop them in behind enemy lines, they'll have Ignores cover, and if they're in the Devastator Doctrine, they will have +1 to their AP. So if you're coming in and trying to target, say, a Space Marine unit, if they're in cover and they pop Armor of Contempt and it's for your overcharged, well, they're going to be saving on 4s, which isn't that great really. But if you come in and pop this and they pop Armor of Contempt, well, they're losing the cover, they're only reducing incoming AP by 1, and plus, because you've got that plus to your AP with this stratagem, you're pushing them onto 6s to save, and each failed save is a dead Marine. The only other beneficial detachment that has stratagems that you can use towards these guys, like a lot of them have reductions to AP outside of 12 inches, and stratagems like that, the ability to fire back, they aren't necessary because you're generally within 12 inches with these guys, and firing back isn't really that beneficial. But the Firestorm detachment, this comes in at +1 strength when you're within 12 inches, which you generally are with these guys because you're dropping them behind enemy lines. You've got 2 stratagems you can use for this. Crucible of Battle, which gives you +1 to your wound roll, and Blitzing Fusillade, which gives you sustained hit 1. So with that +1 strength, if you're dropping in and targeting Space Marines, you don't necessarily even need to overcharge at this point, because you are coming in with +1 to wound, so you're hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, -2 AP. So if you're getting Space Marines and they're not in cover, or they don't have the CP to pull Armor of Contempt, you can be hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, and you're pushing them onto 5s to save, which each one being a dead Marine. And on top of that, if you can pull off the Blitzing's Fusillade and you're getting sustained hits, well, you might be pulling off 1 or 2 extra hits going through and wounding on 2s. You might be making them make a good 6, 7, 8 wound rolls, and that can easily wipe a squad towards the end of the game. I feel with Inceptors, because of the price point, if you're not taking a 6-man, you are limiting what they can do. But what they can still do is score points, especially the late game, and they do have this threat factor where people are eyeing up your Inceptors thinking they're going to drop in and do some damage, kill some units, take some objectives, or score some victory points. So they're always going to be worrying about these guys off the table. So even if you're only taking a 3-man, they are putting a high target priority on them for the enemy, and they're really going to start maneuvering in a way to try and zone out their deployment zone so these guys can't come in, which is potentially allowing you to actually do much more on the tabletop by targeting these units that are now potentially out in the open, trying to stop these guys coming in. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any comments, then pop them below in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button, as it greatly helps the channel. Hit the subscribe button to see any future Warhammer content. Take it easy, and see you next time for more grim darkness from the 41st millennium.